Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I'm Andrew Scaff. He's Mike Warman. Today, the Royals are still relegated into the third, maybe fourth spot on our lineup in today for how bad they've been playing.
Somewhere hidden in the middle where we don't have to spend too much time on them.
Exactly. And we'll get to some NFL news after talking about some NBA and NHL playoffs. But we're going to lead off today with the thing that's probably most interesting to us, even though I didn't watch any of it anyway. So the 2023 Preakness Stakes was last weekend. Mike, did your horse win?
No, I was rooting for Mage. Marie was also rooting for Mage to win, but National Treasure won. Mage was in third, so it was a fun race. And it was an exciting kind of race, and it seemed good enough. But the only real thing that casual fans are going to pay attention to is if there's a triple crown possibility. So unfortunately, that's not going to be the case for the Belmont Stakes coming up in 3 weeks, I think. So,
Yeah. How far did you get into your detailed horse lineage analysis to determine projected winners for the race? Get before the race happened.
it didn't get that far. I think it's hard to say because they all seem to have fairly famous family members. It's a very inbred kind of world of horse racing, and the horses that do well seem to have the most children, and so there's not a lot of diversity, and that's one of the reasons. And I
Yeah.
think they're talking about um, that. It seems like there's a lot of incidents where horses are injured and have to be euthanized, and I think some of that comes from the fact that
Just
there's
lack of
not
genetic diversity.
less genetic diversity, and there's thoroughbreds have very skinny ankles, which
Right.
helps them go fast, but also makes they're kind of brittle. And then once the horse breaks his ankle or leg or whatever, it's kind of the end. They tried to save Barbaro a while back, and that almost kind of worked, but then it didn't. So I think they've just gone back to the shotgun or whatever they do.
Yikes.
It's probably some sort of veterinary kind of euthanasia.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of sad. But it's the racing was fun. The spectacle seemed like it was a good day. It was Odell Beckham was the person who said jockeys get on your horses. Uh,
Oh.
in the Preakness, it was Patrick Mahomes for Kentucky Derby, so it kind of shows you the drop off to the Preakness. It was basically the Baltimore Ravens players that were there, but
Yeah. He didn't even
it
play
was
last year.
no, yeah, he's new, yeah. I don't know if he's going to be. He's coming off an injury and things like that anyway, so he's. We'll talk. I don't know if we'll talk about his success, potential success. We will, I'm sure, as time goes on, but maybe not today. But he was the kind of big name maybe at the Preakness. I didn't see Mahomes there. Yeah, there were some people I think were at both of them, but yeah, it was a fun race. I watched quite a bit of the pre festivities and some of the other shorter races, which were fun. And I don't know anything about any of them. If I bet, would have been random. And so, yeah, I
But you,
would.
but you had bets in every race, though, right?
Yeah, I have a racing form in the back of my back pocket, and
Like
green
all
visor,
time.
chomping on a cigar. Yeah, I always want to be one of those
The
old timey
pencil, like,
pencil in my ear. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, having my own stopwatch. I can time the training
Yes.
sessions and things like that. I always want to be an old timey kind of guy
Yeah.
who hangs out at the track. That seems like a really like if I would like to live like in the 1940s and do that.
It's
And
born in the wrong era.
I think back when boxing and horse racing were the number one and number two sports in America. Baseball was third, and so now it was, yeah, a lot of smoke-filled rooms and you know gin and beer-soaked uh, stubbly guys arguing, and people with press written in those little cards
Oh
in their hats
Yeah.
so they could get a scoop and things like that. So that's the world I would like
Should
to
we
live
try to bring that back as a fashion choice at least anyway for
in.
at games?
Sure, 1940.
Get some
It's a little
in there.
formal for me, but I guess I like the guys who were slovenly wore. It was like they had like an old suit on, and it was kind of
Yeah.
unbuttoned, and then they had like they rolled up the sleeves, and it was kind of the ring around the collar kind of look, and but like they still were wearing like fancy clothes, but it was like they had been wearing it for like 4 days straight. These suits, like even hobos and bums were still in 3-piece suits back then, but
Right.
it was a different time. But yeah, unfortunately, it was not Mage's time, so no Triple Crown possibility. But um, I guess it's even though he lost, it seems a little more dramatic than what's happening in either the NBA or NFL. I mean, in NBA or NHL playoffs.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk? Which one do you want to talk about first? It looks like
Let's
we
see.
might have four uh,
Yeah.
conference final sweeps.
So that is an extreme possibility as of right now.
Yeah,
Yes.
we had the Lakers get swept already by the Nuggets. That's the
Right.
only one that's completed. I think
Yeah.
both of the NHL um, playoff series are going to be 3-0, 3-0 Vegas and 3-0 Florida over Carolina, Vegas over Dallas. And it seems
Which
like the
has
only,
featured a lot of overtime games though, at least in the NHL.
yeah, they've been close.
I
Yeah,
think there are
it
already
seems,
three different
yeah, this,
overtime games. One went to four overtime.
yeah. But the team that was won the other games has won all the overtime games. So it the way it's skewed, it looks like it's not very close. And it looks like the
Four
only,
of the games were over. Four of the five games were overtimes. So all and the other game that has been decided already was a one goal game also.
okay, all
But it
close.
just happens to be that the same team has won
Same team as
all
103. And tonight it looks like the Golden Knights are up comfortably. I think it's 4-0 right now over
it seems like
uh,
Dallas has to score three goals to at least bring it back to a one goal game just so they
yeah.
can still or maybe score two goals in the last 8 minutes to tie it up
Well,
to send it to overtime just to lose.
I would guess they would to get that many goals, they're gonna have to probably pull the goalie. And usually as much as it brings um, a comeback goal, it allows an extra goal from the shorthanded team. And so I would guess probably it wouldn't have too much of an effect. You're down too much. But
Yeah.
unless something really kind of miraculous happens.
Yeah.
It actually seems right now that Celtics might have the best chance of avoiding the sweep, but they're down 3-0 to Miami. But I think they're up in the fourth quarter right now on Tuesday night. But
Mine says a 9 point lead for Boston with 9 minutes to go,
would
if that is
you
still accurate.
do you want to see more games, or do you just want to see Boston bow out quickly and just get to the Miami Denver finals? No NBA team has come down. I think no NBA team has given up a 3-0 lead at least
Right.
this
I
late
think that's right.
in the
Yeah.
playoffs. So it would
And
be
Miami
impressive.
has won both of the road games that they've had in the series too. So they have a huge advantage right now.
Yeah,
uh, Only needing to get one home game to close it out. And it doesn't matter what happens in the other ones. Right.
no, yeah, it's yeah. I guess if the Celtics win, it's going to go back to Boston, and you wonder, well, Miami's been playing better in Boston than they even have in Miami. So would it be worse for if you were a Celtics fan? Would you rather see the Celtics win this game and then lose Game 5 in Boston, so go out 4-1, or would you rather just have them be swept?
I think so. I'm not a Boston fan. I think I would find it more amusing for them to lose at home.
Hmm.
Personally,
Because then,
it's like,
like, if you were one of those, I guess I would say Boston fans are a little bit because East Coast fans are, I think, a little angrier at their teams than Midwestern fans. are, especially like the Philly fans and New York fans. They are not afraid to boo their teams and show their dismay and dislike. And so maybe I would say for a couple of reasons, A, you don't want your team to get swept, but B, you might
Yeah.
also be able to express your disapproval if you're in attendance
Yes.
in Boston and let the
Yeah.
team have a piece of your mind. And maybe that is something that a lot of Celtics fans might enjoy, calling them bums and things like that to their face.
I'm sure that'll be that's the Boston fans' hurled insult of choice.
You bum.
Um,
Also, I'm living in the 1940s, so they would be bums back then. When Red Auerbach was chomping on his cigars. I don't even know if Red Auerbach was coach in the 40s. Was he? I don't know if he was
oh, I don't know.
started that early. Red Auerbach was born he was born in 1917. I thought he was much older than that. He's only a year
Uh,
older than my grandmother. He died in '06. That was a lot later. So he
hmm.
started coaching the Celtics in 1950. So he wasn't quite in
Hmm.
90, uh, the 40s, but he did coach a team that we had talked about previously. He coached two NBA teams prior to coaching um, the Celtics. Neither one of these teams is around anymore. Well, one of them actually played in the league that became the NBA. It was still called the Basketball Association of America, and he coached the Washington Capitals,
Hmm.
Capitol with an O, Capitol, like the Capitol
Oh.
building, um, from 1946 to 1950. He coached them from 46 to 49, and then he coached the Tri Cities Blackhawks, who were from what would become the Quad Cities, but we might think of
Yes.
really as there are five Quad Cities now, so they aren't the Quint Cities.
Yes.
I don't know why, but yeah, we talked about the Tri Cities Blackhawks. They became the St. Louis Hawks and the Atlanta Hawks, but he coached them during their kind of time when they merged with the NBA, and then he coached the Celtics from 1950 to 66, and then
Hmm.
I guess he was GM for until the mid 80s,
Yeah.
and then
Quite some.
president of the Celtics until 2006 when he died.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah. He was born in Brooklyn. He died in Brooklyn. Oh, he died in Washington D.C. He died in Washington D.C.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, he was. So he wasn't quite as old as I. People looked older back then, more quickly. Yeah, so he was only uh, 33 when he started. He was 49 when he stopped coaching the Celtics. So he wasn't even 50. I just think of him as an old man constantly. But maybe
That's
that was,
pretty young.
yeah. Um,
There aren't that many coaches in the league that are under 50, right?
no, it's a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit like the Brad Stevens situation, because
Yeah.
he also coached the Celtics for a while, but then he decided to become the GM, and he's not even
Yeah.
50 yet. So maybe he's becoming the
But he was
new.
only in his 30s or something, right? When he started coaching the Celtics
Yeah, he
team.
was young. He was the coach of Butler when
Yeah.
Butler made back-to-back NCAA championship games,
Yeah.
and that was when Gordon Hayward played for them, and I think he played the first year, and then Gordon Hayward, and then I guess he's still in the NBA. Gordon Hayward, he's only 33, but he played for the Jazz. He played for the Celtics for a while under uh, Brad Stevens. So, but anyway, he is
He was only 36 when he took over the Celtics job. Brad
yeah
Stevens.
pretty young.
For an NBA coach, that is very young, right?
Yeah,
He's 2 years older than us, is all. Does that make you feel old?
it does. It does. Um,
When there are
current
NBA
art.
retired
Mhm.
coaches, just slightly
Excuse me.
older than us.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of retired coaches. Yeah, that's a little sad. Yeah, it seems like there are some NBA coaches that coach in their 30s, like right after they retire from the league, or like they're up and comers that are like um the current Arkansas basketball coach Eric Musselman. He was an NBA coach like in his late 30s. He coached
Yeah.
he coached the Warriors and the Kings. He coached several teams,
Well,
Warriors
most
and the
coaches
Kings.
that retire on their terms, and when they're young, they usually get fired, right? Instead of
Yeah,
leaving on their own terms, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, so right now, I guess some people in Boston think that the current Boston Celtics coach Joe Mazzulla is perhaps in over his head. He's too young, and that's why the Celtics are not
Wasn't
doing
this
well.
is what they got last year, right? Wasn't this the same? Did they lose in the conference championship round last season?
I think so. They haven't gotten over that hump. So did
Yeah.
they even make it that far? I think they.
I was thinking they lost. I was thinking it was the same round, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was. Maybe they did lose earlier.
No, wait, they did. They made it to the. They actually made it to the NBA Finals last year. The
Oh, they
Celtics.
lost in the finals. Okay,
I
so
didn't.
they made it.
I had forgotten about that. They lost to the Warriors in.
So they did make it to the conference championship, but they
Yeah,
won.
yeah. They lost to the Warriors in
Okay.
6 games. They actually beat Miami in 7 to go to the finals. Miami was the number 1 seed, and Boston was number 2. And Boston is number 2 again this year, but Miami's number 8. So I guess they're kind of following the same path because all they had to do, Miami just beat the 1 seed, and they beat the 4 or 5. I guess they beat 4 or 5 this year. I think the Knicks were 5, maybe. Um, but they beat the Knicks. You know, it's the same path, but they just were not the number 1 at this point. So,
Yes.
but it looks like it's going to be Miami and Denver. Who do you like?
Although Boston has extended their lead. They're up now 16 points to go, 5 minutes left.
Okay. Are we? Am I too early calling it a Miami Denver NBA Finals? What are
Maybe
the?
probably the odds are in your favor, but it's
I think last week we said that Miami had like the odds were supposedly Miami had a 97% chance of winning this round. Wasn't
Boston.
that?
Boston had the 97%.
I mean Boston had 97%
Yeah.
chance of winning. That
Yes.
seems.
That's what the odds makers had it at 97, or only 3% chance for Miami to win. Yes.
I did think that was too high. So
Yeah. Apparently, so did Jimmy Butler. So,
yeah.
let's.
Is it? Do you think it's too early though to say it's going to be Miami and Denver?
I think it's extremely likely. But if I say I'm 97% sure, then
Hmm.
the odds makers were 97% sure the last time we spoke, and it looks
I think.
very it's going the other way.
Yeah, I think at best it's well, if you call each game a coin flip,
Right?
that would mean that if Miami so let's say Miami wins. I mean Miami loses this game and Boston wins. And so Boston has to win 3 games in a row. That they have a 1 in 8 shot of doing it.
Yep.
So that's 12.5%.
Yeah.
So you might say 87.5% chance then if you consider them to be evenly matched in each
Yes.
game.
I think
Um,
history says that a team up 3-0 has a near 100% chance of
mhm.
advancing.
Yeah, that's true. But I would think you also say, well, teams that get up 3-0 are usually, you would say they're clearly better than the teams that go down 3-0. So it's not quite like a 50-50 coin flip. It's like a 75-25 coin flip or something like that. So you have to get, it would be 1/4 times 1/4 times 1/4, or probably, like 1 in 64 chance maybe of
Right.
winning, which,
That's much worse than 1 in 8.
yeah. And that's even worse than 97%. That's even worse than a 3% chance of winning. So,
Yes. True.
but yeah, I think of it as probably I'd say so if Miami loses this game, Boston does get game 5 back in Boston. Maybe they can win that game, possibly to their fans' dismay. If or maybe if you're down 3-2, you think, well, we're in it. We only have to win 2 more. Boston, of course, is known for being able to come back from 3-0 deficits in playoffs. It was the Red Sox who were down in the ALCS back in 03, right? Was it the year? Yeah, 2003. And then they
Yeah.
ended up winning the first World Series since 1917 when they beat the Yankees 4 straight after being down 3-0, and then they won 4 straight against the Cardinals in the World Series. And that was just a terrible series by the Cardinals. This is what they just they just decided to we're gonna let Boston win because they haven't won it for so long. It was just like it was
Yeah.
kind of laying down. But I don't think Denver will do that if Boston miraculously comes back in this series. When I don't really see happening, but
Yeah.
maybe just so this will create drama for next week. I will guarantee a
Oh,
Miami victory, and then if I end up being wrong, uh, I can have egg on my face next week, and then you can taunt me as
I
much
was
as you
just checking the stats here though. It is 0 times in the NBA teams have come back from 03. It
like.
has happened twice in the NHL.
Okay. How many
Um,
series have been up 3-0? Does it say
uh,
out of how many?
in in the NBA, it actually has the stat here. Teams are 0 and 149 in
Wow.
3-0 series.
I guess it's a psychological thing too. There's some of that.
The same stat does not pop up for the NHL immediately, but it looks like it's happened twice, and the odds are something like 2%. I think is what it said.
Okay.
So I mean, the number must be there somewhere, but they're not showing it to me very quickly, at least anyway.
Yeah. Well, so
So, and yeah, it's
I'm
happened once in baseball.
yeah.
Is all.
Okay. So I'm pretty yeah. So I feel pretty good then. I'm gonna
And
I'm
actually,
gonna.
in baseball, only one team is even to series down 3-0,
Oh really?
and that was in the 2020 ALCS, Houston and Tampa.
Oh, that was a
Tampa
COVID
was
year.
ahead 3-0 and still won, but 4-3.
That was COVID year. So you think it's crazy? Anything could happen.
Yes. Yeah, it was at a neutral site then too.
And that
So
didn't really count. That didn't really count. But NHL, I guess it's gonna be the probably Vegas and the Las Vegas Golden Knights and the Florida Panthers. Which of those teams do you think
see,
should
my
win?
method so far has been
You
waiting to
picked the
see
right
who you
teams.
pick and then take the others. I think Vegas is going to be my team though. That's what I
Okay.
think.
I think Florida's been hot, so I guess I'll go with them since they've beaten
Yeah.
the teams that I thought were gonna be the.
Yeah.
I thought Boston was got a good shot. Then I also thought Toronto, since everybody else was out, and like, oh, this is Toronto's year, and the Maple Leafs couldn't handle the Panthers, and so I think I'll say Panthers, and this of course will probably mean that the Las Vegas Golden Knights will become the champions, but I'm
I will
not
say at
a.
least a small percentage of why I chose that was to make sure that you would get stuck with Florida because I don't think you like just in general. It's funny.
Well, Marie would want the Panthers to win because they're the animal team,
Yeah.
and so that's the team that I'll root for.
Specifically not a Golden Knights fan
Well, she doesn't mind the knight. Maybe if the knight had a horse that was in the logo,
yeah,
that might be a different story. But
with ice skates.
yeah, I haven't seen any Golden Knights logos with horses though.
Hmm.
It's only kind of a helmet that I ever see,
Right.
which looks a little Spartan even more than
It does.
more than necessarily than medieval, but um it's not particularly golden, is it? It's kind of gold.
It's more silvery, I think, than gold, isn't it?
Yeah,
Though
it's
there's
not it's not it's not like a 49ers or Notre Dame kind of bright gold anyway. It's like a more of a patina on it or something. It's not, it doesn't pop. I'm not very good at colors anyway. I'm kind of
yeah,
colorblind, but it doesn't have that shiny gold in the way that
yeah. Well, the
some
logo, I guess,
teams.
is a helmet, right? And it is. I guess it is gold. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah. But it
Anyway,
also has like a
well,
shadow too, so it does look sort of just metallic instead of like pure, like bright
mhm.
gold. You think of it being like a polished gold, like shiny, is what you if you just heard about it, right?
Uh-huh.
That is what you'd kind of think.
It'd be like, have you seen Excalibur, that movie? At the end of
Almost.
Excalibur, there's Sir Bedivere, um, or he, or maybe it's Mordred has the gold. I think it's Mordred has the golden armor. Um, it's a little bit like that in Gladiator too, when Russell Crowe fights the old retired gladiator who came back, and he has like this,
Mm.
maybe he has a silver. Well, like he has that teardrop
Oh,
things. I can't remember what color that is, whether it's gold or silver, but it's very shiny. And I would think that the Golden Knights would be very shiny because Vegas is glittery and shiny. But yeah,
yeah,
the logo is pretty subdued in terms of its
yeah.
color to me. But
I agree with you though. It does look more Spartan than medieval
mhm,
than what you would, as you
yeah,
just, I think,
yeah,
knowing
it's
knowing the name.
yeah, it's more abstracty, I think, and cleaner lines, so it looks more. I think it just looks more Greek. It's got the kind of nose plate, and there's no full like visor type of thing that you might expect with a knight or like a. It's not like pointed either, like an old there's no chainmail. There's no nothing really that recognizable from of what era it's from, but still they are in the position to win the Western Conference. The Panthers the position to win the Eastern Conference, and it's warm weather hockey that we're going to get either way. It's also kind of it's probably going to be Johnny come lately basketball teams too. I guess the Nuggets have been around a while, but we don't think of the
Yeah,
Nuggets as being historically good or
they've gone
successful.
deep into playoffs, but not. They haven't won a title
Yeah, they had
anytime.
Carmelo Anthony for a while. They
Yeah,
had Alex English back in like the 80s and some teams like that, but they think they've been around since the 70s, but they've
yeah. But they,
never,
have they won the title?
no, they've never won a title. I don't.
Have they gone to finals before?
Not that I know of. I
They
think this
have
is their
one
first.
conference title this year.
Yeah, I was thinking that was this was their first. They've
Yeah,
been um, in the playoffs quite a bit. I guess every NBA team gets in the playoffs quite a bit because so many teams get into the playoffs. But yeah, I guess they've started in. They've played for 56 seasons, but a lot of those were ABA. So the 76-77 season was their first NBA season. Do you know who the first coach of the Denver Nuggets was?
no idea.
He's been a very successful NBA coach. He is still alive. He won um, a championship. He's won both NCAA and NBA championships as
As a
coach.
coach or as a
Yeah,
player?
as a
Or
coach. He may have won something as a player. I don't know. I don't think so. Well, maybe in college. Maybe in college. He played for North Carolina in college, and I don't know if from 1960 to 1963, and I don't know if
hmm.
North Carolina won a title between 60 and 63. I don't have UNC's national championship history off the top of my head, but um,
Is it a very journeyman coach? Has he been in a lot of different
he's
places?
been a lot of different places. Yeah,
Is it Did he coach for Kansas?
he did coach for Kansas.
Is it Larry Brown?
It is Larry Brown. Larry Brown. Yeah, he won the Pistons. He's been to the finals a few different teams. I think he's been this he went to the finals with the 76ers when Allen Iverson was playing. He also reached, I believe, a final for maybe a championship game even with UCLA in the early 80s after John Wooden
Oh,
retired. And he coached the Spurs, I think, for a while before um right before Popovich came. And maybe not right before, but he was there before Popovich. He has coached also the Clippers, the Pacers. So yeah, he started out as he's coached the Nuggets, the Nets, the Spurs, Clippers, Pacers, 76ers, Pistons, Knicks, Bobcats, and he is now an assistant at Memphis.
behind, is that Penny Hardaway?
Penny Hardaway, yes.
Yeah, that's there now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Big Penny Hardaway, not little Penny.
Yes, specifically.
Uh,
Man, that is a very long coaching career.
yeah,
How old is he?
he is 82, it says. Born in 1940.
Wow.
But yeah, he's been everywhere. Um,
Quick update: Vegas has closed out Dallas in Game 3. So Vegas now does have a 3-0 lead.
okay, so it seems like we're still in line, possibly for all sweeps, except perhaps maybe the Celtics will claw back a little bit against the Heat.
And also the Boston Celtics game has gone final now too. Boston has defeated Miami
Oh,
to
okay.
avoid
Well, at least
the
it makes things a
sweep.
little more interesting without all sweeps. Do you think
17-3 for Boston.
so? Maybe to segue into our Royals coverage,
Yeah.
are the are the Royals more likely to reach 70 wins on the season, or are the Celtics more likely to come back from a 3-1 deficit to beat the Royals?
I
Sticking with
guess
likely occurrences.
the Celtics only have to win 3 games, where the Royals have to win like 50, 55 games. Is that right?
Yeah, the Royals right now are 15 and 35, so they played 50 games. So there's 112 games left. The
Yes.
Royals would have to win 55 out of 112. So they'd have to go 55 and 57. So they don't
Still
have
under
to be
500.
500 to get to
Yeah.
70 wins. They only have to be 2 games under 500 from here on out.
Yeah.
Going into the season, I would think, well, that's maybe not too hard, because we had
Yeah.
thought maybe the Royals might even win 75 games or something like that. So knowing that they could be 55 and 57 and still win 70 games, do you still think the Celtics are more likely?
The way the Royals are playing right now, I would say yes. The Celtics are far more likely to win 7, down 3-0, down now 3-1, I guess. Uh, yeah, than the Royals are to win 70 games this year. That's no. I wouldn't
Okay.
put any money on it though either, because it's just they should both lose that, those they should neither of them should that target, right?
You might say the Royals have a 3% chance of getting to 70 wins at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, something like that.
I Yeah, I think they're both pretty remote. I would say I don't know which one, but yeah, the way the Royals are playing, they've been so bad. They don't have
They did win tonight though.
Yeah, they did get rid of Hunter Dozier, who had been
Yeah, I
struggling,
don't know if
but
that's a
then they
good
picked,
thing though, because
but
that
then
seems
they
like
moved. But
a
yeah,
stupid thing the way they used him, and financially it also seems like a stupid thing because they still owe him like $18 million.
and they cut him to bring Nicky Lopez back to the 25-man roster, which
Yeah.
seems like, well, why? Like we're you know throwing, yeah, we're throwing away something that's of little value and picking up something that's different, but also of
But it's
little
not
value.
just of little
I'm sure there's a
value.
great
It also
analogy for us
costs you
saying,
$18 million to get little value, right? So that's what's even worse. Because
yeah,
there's no point.
I guess at this point it's a sunk cost, you can say, and you just want to get rid of Dozier. But
It seems like you would just figure out a way that you'd say like, oh, he has an oblique injury, is going to go on the injured list for 2 months, and then you give him another shot then, and
Well, I guess
then
he
you figure it
hasn't
out from there.
been released. He's been designated for assignment, which I guess
So
means that,
they have a 1 week period to find a trade partner for him, or see
or
if
he
he'll
can go to the minors.
accept a AAA
Yeah,
assignment. But if he does that, he can't get called back up to the majors without them placing him back onto the 40-man roster, which means they'd have to take somebody else off the 40-man roster.
yeah.
So I don't
And I
know
don't,
what the, but I mean, I think it's up to him to accept the assignment.
mhm.
But if he doesn't get traded, chances are he's not going to get picked up anywhere at all. So
Yeah, I guess he would probably sign a minor league deal with another team.
rather than accept a Royals
Yeah,
minor league assignment, I would think
go to Japan, go to
it would
Mexico.
like it would be difficult for him to make it back up to the majors with the Royals,
Hmm.
unless he's even if he plays really well.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it seems like I think. Yeah, I think it's Dozier is. Yeah, he's played his last game. I think for the Royals too. He's batted 183 this year, 253 on base percentage in 82 at bats. He has 2 home runs, 9 RBIs, a 54 OPS plus.
Not very good. Also, not
No,
being played regularly, and they've been moving him all around defensively. So I don't see value in how they've used him. Like if they want to give him a shot to try to get him to be traded, and you need to play him like most days in one position to show that he can play that one position. Nobody else is looking for utility infielders or players that can play in different positions. They're not really looking for that. If they know he can play that, it's fine. But they don't need to see him there every day in
yeah,
different, and it hurts the team as a whole because if he is playing in one position one day and another position another day, he's going to make mistakes that he wouldn't make in the field if he was more comfortable at that position.
and you could say that could also translate to his psyche at bat as well. Maybe he would.
Yeah.
At least that's what they say. Like if you're jerked around in the field, you aren't going to hit as uh, consistently or solidly. Yeah, it seems like Dozier has been just a slightly kind of a below average player most of his career. He had a good year, like was it 2019, right before
Yeah.
COVID year? He had a solid year, and that's when they signed him to the big contract.
I think so.
And
That sounds right.
yeah, 2019 he hit 279, 522 slugging percentage, 870 OPS, 124 OPS plus. That's his only above average OPS plus
And I
season.
think it was the
He's
next
been in the
season.
90s.
The next season he had like an injury before the season started, and then may have had COVID too, I think. And when they brought him back up, like he like really floundered for about a month because the team does this thing where they don't send players to long enough minor league assignments to like get their timing back and expect them to
Yeah,
be 100% as soon as they come back, and they just aren't. Like people with like wrist injuries or oblique injuries, they just don't come back 100%.
yeah, he
So like
hasn't.
let them get the not so great at bats out of the way at AAA and get their timing back, and then come back up when they're ready, and they won't flounder like that because he was awful to start that year, and it really hurt his whole season. I think from that first like month of the campaign.
Yeah, he's been. Yeah, he hasn't hit his highest batting average since 2019 when he hit 279. Has been 236,
Yeah.
and that was last year. So
Again, though, I think a lot of that is due to the team handling him rather than just him underperforming.
mhm.
So I'd put at least a portion, maybe half of the blame, or even more, on the team and the way they franchise uses players.
According to Baseball Reference, he has been worth over the total of his 7 seasons negative 2.6
Hmm,
WAR,
that's
3
not
point
great.
3.5 if you go add up O WAR and D WAR, and I don't know why O WAR and D WAR never seem to add up.
It's because
It's
oh wait,
skewed.
no, it's not.
It's
Well,
skewed a number of
WAR
innings, maybe.
Well, they don't add to WAR because I think WAR counts some defensive stats.
and some
Or it's
offense.
position based anyway.
It's also
So
got base running and things like that. And I don't know
yeah,
if base running is counted in O war or not, but yeah, so
yeah.
like he's minus in defensive war, he's minus 7.5 on his career, and he is 3.5 in O war, a positive 3.5. So his 162 game average, he is also has a negative zero point 0.7 war. So he has been below replacement level, but so the idea would be that you could find anybody in AAA that would be just as good.
That's what. Yeah, that's the right. No, it would be better actually, right?
Yeah, yeah, theoretically. Now it seems like the replacement person is never zero. They're usually it seems like
Yeah,
the players are usually below. I don't see how they quite calibrate any of that. Maybe Fangraphs gets it a little bit closer, but it seems like there are a lot of maybe it's just though that major league teams can't evaluate talent very well. I don't know. But
yeah. Well, it seems like the Royals aren't very good at developing talent at most positions. So
yeah, yeah, you
that's
wonder
just
is it an identifying a talent that they're bad at? Is it developing talent? Is it using talent in the right way, or is it just all three that they're
I think it's all three for the
yeah,
Royals. I think it has been all three.
yeah, it seems like that since they well, at least since the last World Series victory, the last 8 years, it's been that way. But at least they won the World Series within the last decade and have been to two World Series in the last decade. So I'm still kind of living in the glow of the 2015 World
Yes.
Series. I'm not quite in the same way I would be with the Chiefs, but so if the Chiefs were bad like 8 years in a row, I would be really bad, especially with Mahomes on the team. But and I'd probably also be less satisfied with their current just winning the Super Bowl this past year and not winning it for several more years. I guess
Well,
my
would
expectations
you have
are
been
higher
more
for the
critical
Chiefs.
about this year's draft had the Chiefs not just won the Super Bowl?
Maybe, yeah. I don't. Yeah, it seems like I don't. It's hard to say what the draft brings this year because in some ways, Chiefs draft last year looks better because they won the Super Bowl, and they won even though they had a very young secondary, and even though their seventh round draft pick Isaiah Pacheco became the starting running back, and they so like I think in like if the Chiefs had lost in the AFC Championship game to the Bengals, I think it would be a much different. And they could have lost that game, and they could have lost Super Bowl easily. They also with Mahomes hurt, they also could have lost to Jacksonville. So it's this game of inches that they happen to win each of those three games, which I think they're the better team, maybe in all three of them at least. But it's something that they were very fortunate, and yeah, it's hard to say what the draft this year because will be, but I think it seems like the Chiefs did not get quite the impact player that a lot of people probably hoped. But since the Chiefs have been able to win the Super Bowl, and Mahomes has been able to do magic without impact high impact offensive players other than Travis Kelce this past year, people are pretty comfortable with where they are. How are you feeling about the Chiefs' chances? We'll mention this many more times over the course of
Yeah.
uh, our season, but I think it's mini camp time, right? Or OTA.
Well, I think
Right before
OTA's
this.
just started. Yeah.
OTA's just started. Yeah. Um, I don't know if we talked about this before. Did you see that Trey Lance? I think we talked about that Trey Lance practiced with Mahomes in the offseason.
Yeah.
And did you hear that Trey Lance has this like quarterback coach that I think he's also coached Mahomes? That apparently Trey Lance has improved leaps and bounds since
I
just
saw
like
that headline. I didn't read the
practicing
article.
with Mahomes.
Yeah. That he helped make some kind of breakthrough apparently within Trey Lance, apparently.
Yeah, how much of that do you think is wishful thinking, or do you think that actually there is something in that Trey Lance now has the inside track to become not only the 49ers starting quarterback, but a successful NFL starting quarterback.
I don't know what to think of it. It's a nice story at least now. Hopefully, it gives us more hope probably for San Francisco that they have a solid option if Trey Lance is great or if Purdy gets hurt. One way or the other, they've got somebody that's competent, that's ready to go, or just be the starter. But I wouldn't expect him to be the starter yet, as of right
Yeah,
now, based on that article, right?
yeah. There's also Sam Darnold to deal with, who also maybe has been as disappointing as Lance has been, but for maybe a couple years longer
Yeah,
than Lance. They're both, I think, both number 3 overall picks, and yeah. So then you have Purdy, who's recovering from an injury.
yeah.
It's hard to say who's going to be quarterback of the 49ers, but
Or do you think it's possible that the 49ers are just saying that to see if they can spark a little more interest as a possible trade to move him for just a little bit more than they would have just an
that's
injured
interesting.
quarterback coming off of a lost season?
Yeah, what do you think you could get for Trey Lance? You think you could get? You couldn't get. I don't think you could get a first round pick for Lance
You wouldn't
at
think
this
so.
point. Maybe a second or third round pick or
Maybe,
player.
maybe
Um,
another player, another struggling player, or another cast off team that's
yeah,
like about ready to cut ties with somebody, but they don't really quite want to. But
yeah. It's hard to say who the market would be. Is it
mm,
somebody that has like a good starting quarterback and wants to develop Trey Lance as a backup, or is it somebody that maybe didn't draft anybody this past year? Like like with Washington, they have Sam Howell as their starter, or uh,
yeah,
Atlanta with Desmond Ritter, or somebody like that
Atlanta
would.
would be somebody that would be looking for at least another option, right?
Yeah, I think it's something. Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Atlanta didn't really draft anybody at quarterback when they had the chance to. Yeah, I think it would have to be I think it would
Yeah, I
have to be
mean,
an
Washington
NFC
would make a
team.
lot of sense though, too, because it seems like they would want somebody to at least be around
Hmm.
if Howell doesn't, do what they expect him
Yeah,
to.
and you think, well, with Bieniemy there, Bieniemy's connection with Mahomes, maybe Bieniemy could do similar things with Lance. Although I guess most people seem to credit Andy Reid more with Mahomes, but like you could say, well, Bieniemy was there the whole time. You know,
Yeah,
he has that experience with a kind of young, mobile, um, strong arm kind of quarterback. But yeah, I think if they got traded, I think one of those teams. I don't know if there are any other teams that would want like you could say like the Rams even, but they're in the division, so I doubt they would
probably not going to do that. Yeah,
trade. You could also maybe say this like the same thing for like the Seahawks. Well, you think maybe Geno Smith is not a long term answer. Maybe we'll pick up Lance for pennies on the dollar.
Seattle did pick up another quarterback though, didn't they? In the draft, maybe, or
Yeah, Seattle. I think they drafted a quarterback, and I thought they did. Let's see. They drafted. No, not that I see. No, they drafted a wide receiver, Jackson Smith, Jigba, and then they got some running backs. Yeah, no quarterback.
okay, maybe they. I was thinking that they did for some reason, or maybe we picked them to have picked up, but maybe that's what it was. Maybe one of us had a
Yeah,
Seattle drafting a quarterback and they didn't do it.
yeah. Right now, the Seahawks on their roster have. Um, I'm trying to find their quarterbacks here. They have Drew Lock, I guess, as their backup, so he's still youngish. Uh,
Yeah.
and a guy named Holton Allers, rookie out of East Carolina. I guess he was undrafted free agent. Holton Allers. He played for East Carolina.
Mm.
He was wow for East. So he That was never mind. That's his high school career. It's like he threw for 61 touchdowns and 4 interceptions his senior year, but that was his senior year in high school.
You're
But
high
still
school.
very impressive for quarterback. But yeah, he threw. He played 5 years at East Carolina. I guess he got an extra COVID year. He threw 28 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 3,700 yards in 13 games, 6 rushing touchdowns. So he's, I guess, a project, but
Yeah.
big, 6'3", 237. So, yeah, I guess I could see maybe them wanting to get a third quarterback though, especially if you don't think Locke um, is somebody that could develop into a starter. Or maybe I don't know if they would think that Geno Smith is the long term answer, but Carroll is not. He's a defensive minded coach. He probably doesn't really care about the quarterback maybe as much as some other teams would.
They just need somebody
Or
competent.
I just thinking about defensive minded coaches who aren't enamored with their quarterbacks. Would New England trade for Trey Lance because right now they have Bailey Zappi and Michael McCorkle, Mac Jones as their
Yes. You
starter?
would think that they would want something else there.
Yeah.
I know
Although
you're a big Mac Jones
I've
fan.
heard Mac Jones is in the best shape of his life, and he's really thriving under new offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien. But yeah, I would yeah I
That's what your inside guide OTAs
that's what I've heard. Yeah,
relayed back to you.
yeah. I think I heard that. I think I listened to that on the NFL radio network on satellite radio recently. That Mac Jones is really coming into his own, but he is not somebody I would be satisfied with as my starting quarterback if I were.
I've heard you're a big fan.
No, I'd say if I'm trying to think of my least favorite NFL players, and Mac Jones might be my number one right now.
Yeah.
I didn't. I used to be. I think it probably used to be Taysom Hill, but that was more, I think, because of the way the Saints used him
And valued
and
him.
valued him too much. And now I think he's undervalued for the Saints. He doesn't play enough. He doesn't get enough touches,
Yeah.
and so
Or for his salary.
yeah. And then Jordan Love, he was one of my uh, guys I didn't like as much either, but I think Aaron
That
Rodgers
wasn't
is actually
necessarily
it wasn't
his
his
fault.
fault. Yeah, it was
Right.
just a
They
dumb
you weren't a
move
fan. Right.
by the
Yeah.
Packers. But also I think Aaron Rodgers has passed Jordan Love as being so annoying that he so I would I don't it's a my I think Kyler Murray is kind of up there for me too as
Hmm.
a because of his video game uh prowess and his lack of football kind of interest from what
Hmm.
it seems like. I don't know who's my lead. Who
He's a
Russell?
Big 12 guy, so he's fine in my book,
Okay,
anyways.
Russell Wilson. I don't care for either. I guess not only because he plays with the Broncos, but he's just sort of a weird and guy that is not weird in the way that I would like.
Or expect even
Yeah,
for
yeah,
him. From like
yeah.
what like the public persona that we've seen of him, like the stories that have come out recently about like the entourage that he has or the
The
office that
part,
he
the office
demanded.
that he has, the high
Right,
knees
yeah.
in the on the plane.
Yes.
Uh,
That was one of the funnier stories from last season though. I want more stories like that. If it has to be in a weird circumstance, if he's the one that's delivering them, that's fine.
mhm.
Because that is weird to talk about that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, so I was like, maybe those are teams that might take Trey Lance since
Yeah.
he, especially, yeah, maybe the Mahomes story is to try to pump up his value. But it could also maybe you can see what him he's turning a corner. I don't know, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the 49ers quarterback situation because it seems like they have a good team, except the quarterback has been.
Will the new rule changes have
Yeah,
any effect on that, like on the 49ers and their quarterback or their situation
I
there?
th- I think it would, but like, who would have been the quarterback so like right now, so there's a new rule that just I think they just approved it Tuesday that the NFL teams now can carry three quarterbacks on game day, provided that the third quarterback is on the 53-man roster, and that person would not count as part of the normal 47 that get to be eligible to play on game day.
The
And
Chiefs tended to keep three quarterbacks on the 53-man roster.
mhm, the
Not
last 2 years they
not
have.
usually having almost never having three active on game day though.
Yeah, they've kept Shane Buechele the last 2 years because I think they thought he was going to get poached by perhaps the Cardinals and some other teams. So it looks like they would keep, well, to do that, to have a third quarterback dress as an emergency option, they would have to have those three on the 53-man roster. So I guess right now it would be Bortles, Buechele, and Mahomes. And for the third quarterback to play, the first two quarterbacks would have to be declared out of the game. And going back to the San Francisco Philadelphia game, that was when Purdy got hurt and was declared out, and then Josh Johnson, who just recently signed it with the Baltimore Ravens as their backup, was hurt now. So like, was Garoppolo healthy? He was standing on the sidelines. I remember during that game. Would he have been the third quarterback at that point? Was
Yeah,
was
I
he
don't
healthy
know.
enough sort of to go in, or was he,
He
or was it,
hadn't played, so I would think he probably wasn't ready to go. Because they
or
had they
was
had three quarterbacks dressed that day, right?
I don't know who did the well.
Or did they? No, maybe they didn't. Because
Oh,
no,
they couldn't have three quarterbacks dressed because they couldn't they played it was Kyle Juszczyk or uh as quarterback or
yeah,
um McCaffrey as quarterback and
right. Well, then Purdy ended up ultimately coming back,
in with
and
his one arm, yeah.
which they may have had somebody else if they had a third player dressed. They could have brought someone else in. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I thought
The
Garoppolo
new
was
rule
considered
is
to be sort of healthy because I think they were thinking he could practice and maybe play in the Super Bowl. So maybe he would have been at least if it had been an emergency, he could have been that number three quarterback. But or would they have had to sign an additional person? I don't know who would have been on the practice squad
yeah.
of the 49ers, but it's yeah, I don't it's like it was made for situations like that, but I don't know if this 49ers would have been able to take advantage of that situation if they didn't, they would have had to have other quarterbacks available.
So do you think most teams will have keep three quarterbacks on their 53-man roster for next season now, and then always have one quarter? I think you'd have to, right, just to have them in reserve because this doesn't hurt anything, right?
I think they will, partly because of the other rule change that was big today, the new kickoff rules, where this was also passed today, where if you kick off and you have a fair catch anywhere, even within anywhere inside the 25-yard line, the ball gets taken out to the 25 as a touchback, and I think
What's a
that will
college
minimize,
rule they've been
yeah,
using
a new college rule, yeah,
actively the last two seasons, maybe?
yeah. I think that will make the kickoff return team even less important.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say, well, maybe we don't need quite as many special teams specialists as we did before. So maybe we can. Because I think a lot of the reasons that the teams don't carry a third quarterback is because they need bodies to be on special teams and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe this would mean that special teams aren't as important. I think teams overvalue the kickoff and kickoff return and punt return
Yeah, for sure.
teams. I guess the Chiefs. It turned out the Chiefs did really well on punt return in the Super Bowl, but overall during the season they dropped punt. Would they have just been better at just letting a ball land where it lands
Fair
and
catch everything, or let them go.
or send 11 people up to try to block the punt,
Yeah.
and if it if they punt it, well, okay, they punt it, and there's no, they're going to fair catch it anyway, or they're going to
Yeah.
commit a penalty that backs it up after a 2-yard gain. They're back 15 yards. Is it? I think it seems like the Chiefs more often than not, also on the kickoff, ran the ball out of the end zone when they would have been better advised to just down it and get it at the
Yeah.
25 rather than running it back to the 18 or
Yeah.
which seemed like that was the most common sort of thing.
Yeah, I really thought the Chiefs should only do that like rarely and when they're least expected to do it. Is like, but mostly fair catch or down everything they can, just to make sure they don't turn it over because it's just too risky or get a penalty. Because it seemed like the penalties on kickoffs seem higher, kickoffs and punts seem to
Yeah.
happen more frequently than almost other plays combined, seemingly.
Yeah, it's like
Holds,
um
blocking the back, that kind of stuff. It seems like it happens on almost every kick
it happens a lot.
or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
I would say on average there's not a lot there's gain in the return game.
Yeah. So,
And
so if the team knew that they weren't going to be returning it, they're just gonna down it
mhm.
or fair catch, then I think some of those other penalties would happen less frequently too, because there'd be no reason for anyone to block in the back because they're
Mhm.
not actually defending it.
Yeah, you would just
So,
on a kickoff you would still need to block because you'd have one of your people would have to touch the ball first because the offense can recover the kickoff, but on a punt
good.
they can't. They punt it away. It's the defense's
Yeah.
ball, unless they touch it, and and that happens a lot of times too. When they try to field it, they drop it, and the other team picks it up. That happened at least 3 times to Sky Moore during the season. So
Yeah.
they would
And
have
I
been
think a
better.
lot of that too is like they're like, assuming the catch and starting to take off rather than securing the catch and just, worrying about that only.
Yeah.
It's like taking the eye off the ball on a ground ball in
Mhm.
baseball, getting ready to make the throw when you don't have the ball secured yet. That's pretty normal. Anyway,
Yeah.
especially with kids anyway.
I think
Right.
it's I think it's yeah, it happens with the pros as well. I think especially if you think you've got it. Like that happens with receivers all the time. They don't look the ball into their hands, and then they kind of are starting to go afterwards. And it doesn't happen that often, but maybe once a game, it'll it'll happen.
Yeah.
But um, so these changes, I guess, are in part to kind of deal with injuries and maybe to make the sport safer. Uh, Also, however, the NFL, their other big news this week was that they're going to perhaps flex the Thursday night games because Amazon was upset about the lack of quality this past season on Thursday night. We saw some really horrible Thursday night games. That Denver San Francisco game was really bad. Or the Denver Colts game, that was what it was. The Broncos Colts was really bad. Marie's two favorite teams. And I think was there a Saints? It was like some NFC South games that were just
Yeah.
terrible as well. And so there's some games might be flexed, but that also might mean that good teams might have to play on Thursday twice.
Yeah.
And
It seems like a terrible idea to me, but I don't know. I don't know why any team would want to play on Thursday if they don't have to. But it seems like the teams that get Thursday games they should have to be like out of a bye. It's like
mhm.
the only scenario where teams should get Thursday games at all.
or holiday, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
So like the
Or
Chiefs opening day game is going to be on a Thursday. That's fine. They didn't have to play
mhm.
3 days earlier, so 4 days earlier.
Yeah, maybe you could say, well, if they staggered games on more different days, maybe a Thursday wouldn't be as bad. But
Yeah.
or at least you would say, well, they couldn't play a Monday game and then play Thursday, or maybe even a Sunday night
Yeah.
game shouldn't play Thursday either. But but I think in the end, like towards the end of the season when they have some Saturday games, I think Saturday to Thursday is
Not quite as bad
not
anyway. Yeah.
quite as bad. But yeah, I think in terms of
But bye to Thursday seems fine too, though.
mhm.
Like
The
that seems like
Thursday,
the
yeah, yeah,
obvious. pool to pull from are teams that just came out of. If there are two
Out of the
teams
bye.
that had buys, and the next game is supposed to be on Sunday, and they flex that one to Thursday,
Mhm.
I think that the teams might not complain about that. But it seems like if you're supposed to play on Sunday and they pull you up a couple days,
Mhm.
that's the players union should be all over nixing that as fast as they can.
Yeah. Well,
The
they're all
players,
like the problem with if you want to play a game every Thursday, well, there are only about 8 weeks, 9 weeks in the season that there are buys for teams because you have to have it kind of in the middle. You can't have one team with a buy in week two. And if you did, you could though maybe have a 19-week season. Everybody gets two buys, and that might allow
then
for
it
more
becomes
Thursday games.
easier to schedule that kind of.
And I think that might be like something good because that would allow more Thursday games. It would also allow a longer NFL season that there would be more Sundays where football is played.
Yeah,
And
just not quite as much
mhm.
football every
I think
time.
if you go down to the two by regular season, that will probably lead you to the 18 game NFL season, which I think is what the players do not want. But maybe with the extra bye, but it's a
Yeah,
long season. But people would watch football every single week if it was on. So that would be something that the
if it's
um,
NFL, because I don't know that fans are necessarily
watching
watching
USFL or XFL.
XFL or USFL. Yeah,
But it's also a thing like you might have that extra buy if there's international expansion because there would be more travel like overseas and stuff like that. So if you give teams
yeah,
a second buy, that would allow additional Thursday games, additional overseas games, and kind of help the traveling teams some. So maybe that's where we're headed eventually. But
could be.
should we be headed to the end of our broadcast today?
I think so.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of new NFL player news, but that some of those rule changes might have a big effect on the upcoming season. We'll talk about maybe those changes more as we go through the off season. Maybe we'll find out some more insights from the off season training activities, OTAs that the teams have had. We've already heard a few, Trey Lance stories, and maybe we'll hear some more Mac Jones tales as well before the season starts. But we have next week the NBA Finals likely to look forward to, unless the Celtics extend that series to 7 games. We might not, uh, you know, that might not be completed by the time we go on the air next week, and presumably, probably as well, we'll have the NHL Finals starting by the time we have next week. So we'll have some other things to talk about, and maybe the Royals will begin their march towards 70 victories. They only have to be 55 and 57 over
They
their
get a
next.
slightly easier schedule this week. So they've got one more game against Detroit, 3 games against Washington,
Hmm.
2 games in St. Louis before they come back to Kansas City after that.
Okay.
The
So
second St. Louis game would be our next episode date. So
okay.
they have up to 6 more games
So
for
yeah,
them.
maybe they will turn things around, and we'll start to see maybe jettisoning Hunter Dozier will be the it's like the weight off of the sinking ship that now the Royals can sail to success with even with Nicky Lopez at the helm, but we'll see. Yeah. So anyway, we'll see you guys all again next week on another exciting episode of the One Trick Power Hour. And uh, until then, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the One Trick Power Hour. Please like and or subscribe to our podcast/YouTube channel, and it's available in many formats and via many platforms. So there's no excuse not to be able to find the One Trick Power Hour. It's easily available to those who put even the slightest amount of effort in, just like the Royals have been putting the slightest amount of effort probably into this Major League season. And on that note, we'll see you next week. And until then, bid you good day.